Well, loud crowd, it's been quite the wild ride, but at long last, we have officially reached the 10-year anniversary of the Loud House. It's hard to believe that the show has been going on for more than a full decade. It really is impressive that this Nickelodeon cartoon was able to reach this milestone, and I know many Loud House fans are incredibly happy about it. However, for some reason, I don't feel as excited as I should be. Obviously, I'm glad the show I have so much nostalgia for is still airing after all this time, but I honestly feel kind of empty about it, and I don't know why. I don't know if it has more to do with how little free time I have to rewatch the show, or if it's got more to do with the reception of the series nowadays compared to when it first premiered in 2016. With that said, even if I'm not as invigorated as I would have liked, I'm still overall glad the Loud House has come this far and that there is still more to come. And because this franchise is probably the main contributor for my channel's growth, I feel like I have to do something for this special event. So after giving it a bit of thought, I've come up with something simple, sweet, and hopefully short. In this video, I will be honoring the Loud House's 10-year anniversary by reflecting on my history with the franchise and giving my brief thoughts on the show's main elements. Although I would prefer doing something much bigger, such as making a big celebratory AMV or even doing an insane ranking of all episodes currently out, though I definitely want to do something like that in the future when the time comes, I think it would be easier to just briefly talk about the show as a whole. While I wish I could get really deep and specific into everything, as I've learned from my previous videos, it's better for me to have my commentary videos be as short as possible, so they don't exceed lengths I never expected. Heck, I had an original script for this video, but the more I was working on it, the more I knew it was once again going to be way longer than it needed to be. So if this video feels not specific enough, just know it would be way longer than it currently is. Anyways, I would say more, but I'm sure you guys can get the gist of it, so I think we'll get started. Before we do though, if you guys enjoy the video or are a fan of the Loud House, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. As I've said in my previous videos, I promise with your support, I'll be more motivated to work hard on future videos and improve my editing skills in any way I can. If not, I would still be glad if you left a comment, and if you guys have any feedback or tips on how I can improve my videos, I would appreciate that too. Without further ado, let's begin my history and personal reflection of the Loud House to celebrate the show's 10-year anniversary. So I guess I'll start this discussion by revealing how I got into the show, and boy does that take me back to when I was 10 years old. The story of when I first heard of the Loud House is quite simple actually. I was just watching Nickelodeon in my living room and saw a teaser for the show during the commercials. When I first heard of the Loud House and learned that it was about a boy living with 10 sisters, I thought it was an amazing idea for a TV show, and it was unlike any other show I've seen back then. After watching a couple of episodes, there was just this charm I was feeling that really spoke to me. It's a bit hard to explain, or it's just my personal opinion, but I was quite into what I was watching. I also have fond memories of watching the official sibling song, which was the promotional song for the show that went by the names of each sister, and ended with the la 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 Lincoln! I watched that video so many times when I was young. And I remember walking down my school hallways trying to memorize the names of all the sisters since there were 10 of them. Sometimes I wish I can go back to the early days of the show and remember how simple everything was. To this day, I still check the Loud House wiki page all the time and see if new episodes are announced or will be airing soon. I also have around 10 of the graphic novels and hope I can get the DVDs that are already out in the future. And I even have plastic figures of some characters that I haven't even unboxed. All of this shows just how passionate I've become with the franchise. And that's pretty much how I got into the show. I thought I would have at least a bit more to say, but I think I said pretty much everything I wanted to. I guess when you hear about and start viewing a show just by watching cable TV, it doesn't leave for much of an exciting story. I feel most people nowadays hear about new shows and movies through social media, but knowing I became a fan of The Loud House through cable TV is something I will always remember. With that origin out of the way, let's get into the main elements that make up the entire show. Beginning with what I believe is the most obvious element, we have the animation. Back in 2016, there weren't any other animated shows I watched that bore a striking resemblance to The Loud House. The best way I can describe the show's animation is that it feels like a moving comic book. From the comic strip art style, the way the characters are designed, as well as the background elements and little things, the series really has its own charm because of the way it's animated. It's not my favorite show with this comic book art style, as that honor goes to Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but I still adore how the Loud House looks. On to the setting, I think the titular house does a great job at being distinct. Dozens of episodes take place in that home, and I can instantly recognize any of the rooms. Because it's big and there's so much you can do, it's definitely one of the fictional homes I would want to live in the most in real life. At least alone. Having to actually live with the Loud family is a different story, despite how much I love them. As for the town of Royal Woods as a whole, well, in the eyes of people who don't watch the show that much, it's likely far less memorable. Granted, it seems difficult to make a reality setting of a TV show feel unique as opposed to a fantasy setting. Still, there are a variety of recurring areas I'd probably want to visit all the time if I was a character in the show. Whether it's Flip's Food and Fuel, Gus's Games and Grub, or the Burpin' Burger, I'd still say the town of Royal Woods is just as special as the show itself. Next, I want to talk about something more unique, that being continuity. The Loud House isn't a show like Avatar: The Last Airbender and Amphibia, where there is an overarching story across the whole series. But in my opinion, that's okay, and there are still ways for a show like The Loud House to have continuity. I said this in my 2025 TV show ranking, but I tend to mostly prefer shows that are a mix of being both episodic and having continuity. Basically, there isn't an overarching story, but there are often callbacks, flashbacks, build-ups, and continuations from previous episodes, thus making the series feel connected as a whole. This can allow a show to tell almost any type of episode or story if it really wanted to. At the start of the series, The Loud House was very loosely connected, but I feel like with each following season, there's been more signs of continuity and a more consistent timeline, which I really like to see. Even if there are inconsistency issues with the timeline, I still appreciate the show trying to connect itself as a whole. Going back to a previous point, next I want to talk about the fantasy versus reality argument the show tends to have. My opinion on the matter is that I really don't care. Yeah, the show started off and is meant to be grounded in reality as a whole, but I really don't mind when the show has an episode dedicated to something completely unrealistic. In my opinion, as long as a cartoon is mostly entertaining or enjoyable, it can be as unrealistic as it wants. I mean, I feel like the whole point of animation is to create works of art and media that would be really hard or would feel really unnatural to make with real life cinematography. If people are gonna complain about the fantasy elements this much, then The Loud House might as well have been a live action sitcom, and we all know how that turned out, but I'll touch on that in just a moment. Still, many of my favorite episodes in the show are either grounded in reality or have total fantasy. So like I said, as long as I'm enjoying the episode I'm watching, I know I'll have a good time with The Loud House. Next, we have a miscellaneous topic I want to touch on, but it's definitely the most difficult and uncomfortable thing for me to talk about in this video. That, my friends, is of course, the fandom for The Loud House. Look, if you're someone who doesn't care about that and just watch the show for fun, or because you're deeply passionate about it like I am, that's awesome and you have my respect. Obviously, I do know there are people out there who genuinely care about The Loud House, and if someone doesn't enjoy it, that's their opinion and I respect it too. It's just hard to deny this show has one of the most, dare I say, disturbing fandoms I've ever seen. I don't know if it's got more to do with the creepy shipping, dark fan fiction, or even toxicity with the crew behind the show, but I wish such a series didn't have to deal with a fandom like this. It's literally unlike anything I've ever seen. Plus, I do think it is admittedly kind of funny that the longest work of fiction is The Loud House revamped. I honestly should check it out whenever I get the chance. Lastly, there's one more thing, or person rather, I should mention. An important discussion on The Loud House would not be complete without bringing up the series creator, Chris Savino, who, as I'm sure many people know by now, was fired from Nickelodeon for sexual misconduct allegations. To be honest, and I swear it's not me being lazy, but I really don't feel like discussing this. Besides the fact it would take time doing research, I really don't want to sound offensive to either Savino himself or those involved with his firing from Nickelodeon. The most I will say is that had Chris Savino stuck around with the Loud House all these years later, it's up in the air whether or not the show would be in a better or worse state than it currently is. Plus, considering the fact he did acknowledge and atone for the abysmal backlash for No Such Luck, it does make me believe he really did care about the franchise. It just feels like a shame all these events went down like this, and it has me feeling incredibly mixed about it. Before I forget, I should take this time to briefly mention the Casagrandes and live-action Loud House media. Starting with the latter, I obviously don't want to talk about it, so I'll just say I've seen both movies and a few episodes of the TV show, didn't like any of them, and I'm glad all of it was cancelled. As for the Casagrandes, pretty much everything I say about the Loud House also applies to the spin-off, albeit with a Mexican twist. I really should dedicate a whole video to it though. Oh, and Sid is definitely my favorite and the best character. Please bring her back in the main series, I miss her so much. With that, I think that's all the main elements and miscellaneous things I wanted to talk about. There's likely more I could have said, and I really didn't want to sound too controversial, but again, I do not want to risk making this video way longer than it needs to be. Up next, we have what I am the most excited to talk about, the show's humongous cast of characters. There's plenty to discuss there, so let's get into it. One thing I gotta give the Loud House credit for is managing to handle nearly a dozen main characters. I don't know what the typical number of central characters are in a movie or TV show, it really depends on the media itself, but the fact this show is able to have such a unique main cast is very cool. It's not just the titular family that make the show alive, there are dozens of characters in this franchise, each of them feel memorable in their own way, for better or worse. I know for a fact that if not for this ginormous roster of characters, The Loud House would not be the charming show it's always been. Anyways, this segment was undoubtedly going to be incredibly long had I said everything I initially planned to say, so to try and not make it insanely long, I'm just going to provide my personal brief thoughts on each of the show's main characters. I know it's not the most convenient, but I'm on a tight schedule. Either way, let's get started. First off, we have the man with the plan himself, Lincoln. He's always been my favorite character, mainly just by how much I relate to him. Plus, I was around his age when the show first premiered. I love it when he talks to the viewers as if you're a part of the show, and the way he manages dealing with his 10 sisters is very admirable. Even though I'll admit I haven't been a fan of his writing lately, he'll always be the character that means the most to me. Starting with the sisters, first up we have Lori, who's probably the most developed character in the whole show. At the start of the series, she was just a typical overbearing older sister, but with each following season, she's really matured and has become very likable and relatable. From having a wholesome relationship with Bobby to getting into a prestigious college, it's admirable to see how far Lori has come. I do hope she is given a future full-time career, what with her dropping out of Fairway and quickly changing jobs. Still, Lori is awesome and a major contributor to the Loud House. Up next we have Lenny, and I feel like I gotta ask, is there anyone who doesn't love her? Between her super sweet personality combined with her dim-witted nature, she's just a character I and many fans can't help but adore. Plus, several episodes focusing on her are considered to be almost very enjoyable by many fans. My only minor issue with her, which has nothing to do with her character, is that for some reason, she doesn't have a static love interest. But even without a permanent boyfriend, she's still an extremely enjoyable character to watch. Now we're on to Luna, and just like with Lenny, I feel like everyone who watches the show loves her. Her passion for music makes her such a relatable character, and several episodes focusing on her are also very beloved by the fandom. Plus, I can't forget her relationship with Sam. Even though I recently realized how underdeveloped it feels, I'll never forget the community's reaction when everyone found this out. I do wish she was given a secondary hobby outside of music, but regardless, it's very easy to see why Luna is a very beloved character in the Loud House. Also, I want her to make song references again. I missed when she did that in the early seasons. On to Luann, and given that a crucial part of her character is being a comedian, there has to be one moment in the entire series where everyone has laughed at her at least once. Whether it's making a pun, pulling a prank, or even just chuckling, Luann is just an absolute joy to be around. Plus, I feel some episodes focusing on her are deeply relatable, especially since I've dealt with similar struggles, and her relationship with Benny is enjoyable too. In terms of complaints with her, I guess Mr. Coconuts can be a bit annoying and unnecessarily overused, and I have a hard time understanding why the fandom doesn't like her during the April Fool's Day episodes. Still, Luann is awesome, and the Loud House would be way less funny without her. Next, we have who is probably the most controversial of the main characters, Lynn. Man, it really is a shame how negative her reputation tends to be due to how she is written in some episodes. You have the obvious examples, but there are even moments where she's not playing an important role, and some fans can't help but seem displeased by her. Still, even with the status of probably being the least liked Loud sister, I really care about Lynn. Her energetic and competitive nature makes her relatable and fun to watch. She's incredible at so many sports, and I love her dynamics with her family especially. Even if she's flawed, she adds so much energy to the Loud House, and the show would be way different without her. Also, I really like the nickname LJ the characters call her. I call her that sometimes too. I wonder if anyone else does. Next we have Lucy, who's probably the sister I have the least to say about. I mean, when your main character trait is acting all gloomy and not all open-minded, it's kind of hard for me to think of several things to say on the fly. Plus, I find episodes focusing on her friend group, the Morticians Club, to be super boring because they all act like the same gloomy character. Even so, she, like all the main characters, has her standout moments and once again can be deeply relatable in certain scenarios. I just hope before the series ends, we get to see both her eyes underneath her bangs, not counting the one we saw in Naughty or Nice. Also, I want her to jump scare people again. That's another running gag I miss. Next up we have Lana, who is by far my favorite Loud sister, and for multiple reasons. Between her love for animals, her skills as a plumber and mechanic, to even how brave she is when getting completely dirty, she's the sister I feel the most attached to. Even if some of the things she does are too gross for my liking, that won't change how much she means to me. Also, I don't know if it's just my gamer instincts talking, but between the red hat, blue overalls, and the fact she's a plumber, I feel like there has to have been some Super Mario influence when creating her character. Either that's true or it's just a coincidence. Regardless, I love Lana so much, and she's definitely my favorite of the Loud sisters. In contrast, next up we have her twin Lola. She was undeniably the most disliked of the main characters during the first season, and for good reason. It was hard not to hate her due to how unlikable she used to be. Even though it's a core part of her character and may have been done for the plot of the episodes she acted like that, she was definitely the hardest main character to like in the first season. Despite her rough start, she quickly became less hated and more loved starting with the second season. Her villainous persona isn't as drastic, and is often used for more comedic purposes. Outside of that, she works very hard in pageants and can't help but love drama. So, in the end, Lola truly became an icon in the Loud House, for better or worse. As for Lisa, being your typical child's genius slash nerd character, she is obviously an interesting character to look into. Her main flaw as a person, not as a character, would definitely be her lack of emotional awareness. There are plenty of moments where she always thinks first with her brain and not her heart. Because of this, whenever she does act emotional, Lisa becomes a very enjoyable character, and it's nice to see her form genuine bonds with her family and friends. Even if she's the most unrealistic of the main characters, due to how she is so young yet so intelligent, episodes focusing on her are sure to be interesting one way or another. And last but not least, we have Lily. Like with Lucy, I don't think there's much I can say about her. Given that her main character trait was just being the family baby, it's hard making her so deep and complex. Still, not every show needs all of its main characters to be written seriously, and Lily is a perfect example of that. I feel like the whole point of her character is that she is meant to be an innocent baby you're supposed to love, and she of course fills that role perfectly. Lily is just an adorable character you can't help but awe at. Plus, I'm so glad she aged up starting in season 5. Hopefully she'll get her own main hobby like all her siblings, and if she continues aging as the show goes on, that'll make her such a memorable character. I guess I had more to say about her than I thought. So those were all the Loud siblings who appear in the show's theme song, but there are still 3 more characters that deserve a spotlight. This segment is already as long as I expected, so let's quickly get into discussing them. First up, we have the parents of the Loud House, Rita and Lynn Loud Sr. They're listed as supporting characters on the Loud House wiki, but honestly, they're practically main characters like their children, especially since their faces were revealed at the start of season 2. Starting with Lynn Sr., he's overall just a great cartoon dad. I love how whimsical he is, how his passion for cooking led to him having his own restaurant, and even though his moments where he cries emotionally can be annoying, it just shows how much he cares for his kids. Plus, I love Brian Stepanek's voice for him. I can't imagine anyone else voicing the character. Speaking of which, the entire voice cast is also incredible as a whole. I strongly feel every actor fits with the character's voice perfectly. With all that in mind, there's no denying Lynn Loud Sr. is a great dad and fun character. As for Rita, while she does feel like the lesser of the 2 parents, there's once again no denying what a great mother she is. I feel like she is the more authoritative of the 2 parents, as there have been moments where Rita wasn't pleased with Lynn Sr.'s actions. Still, I don't think there's a moment where the 2 ever fought with each other on screen, so it shows how they have one of the most healthy married relationships in animation. Rita just does so much for her family, and without her, the Loud House would be an even bigger mess. Truly an excellent mother. Overall, I adore Rita and Lynn Sr. as parents and characters. Even if they do have their moments where they are disliked by the fandom for being bad parents, just remember they're dealing with 11 kids, which is no easy task. They may not be the most beloved cartoon parents, but they're still excellent characters nonetheless. And the last main character we have to talk about is Clyde. As much as I love him, I'll just say that if Lincoln has trouble standing out among other main cartoon characters, then Clyde is definitely not the first sidekick character many people would think of. And I remember how some people didn't like him early on due to his annoying crush on Lori. Still, Clyde stopped having that crush in the modern era, and he has become much more enjoyable. I like how despite being Lincoln's best friend, he's shown to be more reserved and insecure than him, and once again, he can be super relatable depending on the scenario. I love how he and Lincoln call themselves Clink and McCloud, and Clyde even has great interactions with Lincoln's sisters. Top it off with super great, albeit overprotective fathers, and Clyde is just a nice character anyone can enjoy. So those are all the main characters of the Loud House. Once again, I wish I could talk about the several side characters the show has, but we'd be here forever if I did. Plus, there's even more I can talk about regarding the 14 characters we just discussed, so we'd better move on. Next, let's talk about how I feel about the quality regarding the show's complete seasons. I don't know what the general consensus is on the quality of each season of The Loud House, but in my opinion, I think they're all above average at least. It's not hard to point out what each season's best and worst episodes are, and I don't find myself particularly hating a specific season. Like with the character segment, I'm just gonna give my brief thoughts on each season of the show, as well as provide what my favorite and least favorite episodes are. Hopefully this segment doesn't reach the same length, so let's get into it. First up, we have the OG Season 1. I remember how different the show was way back in the beginning, and just looking at all the title cards brings back so many memories. You got classic episodes like Left in the Dark and Project Loud House, but you also got stinkers like Sound of Silence and The Greenhouse. I'll admit, I do find it a bit odd when people say this is the golden age of the show because of the many complaints it has. Still, despite the flaws and how stereotypical most of the characters were, it was still a great season to start the show. Overall, if someone said this was their favorite season purely because of nostalgia, I couldn't blame them for it. Next up we have Season 2, which I consider to be the most ironic season of the show. Because while I do think it has fewer poor episodes than Season 1, these episodes are often contenders for being the worst in the show. Like, it's bad enough that it has No Such Luck, but the fact it also has Brawl in the Family and Making the Grade, it just leaves a very bad taste in your mouth. Even so, despite these terrible episodes, there are a variety of memorable episodes as well. 11 Louds a Leapin', L is for Love, Job Insecurity, Antisocial, and those are just off the top of my head. I definitely think it's an improvement over Season 1, and can totally understand anyone having this season as their favorite. As for Season 3, I think it's my favorite of the first 4 seasons. It was the season that really started to branch out and give more focus to other characters instead of just Lincoln most of the time, and the quality really wasn't bad this time. The only episode I'd call outright bad is Frenzy, and even then, it's not on the same level as the aforementioned bad episodes. Throw in more fantastic episodes like Tripped, Instagram, Really Loud Music, and Racing Hearts, and you have what is definitely one of the Loud House's best seasons. In contrast, next up we have Season 4, which I think is the weakest of the show's first 4 seasons, as well as my least favorite season overall. I think the main reason for this is probably the fact this was the first full season without series creator Chris Savino involved. It also might have something to do with the start of the season focusing on the Casa Grandes. Not that it's a bad thing, but definitely a strange way to start the season. Anyways, with Season 4, while you do have great episodes like Washed Up, Leader of the Rack, Good Sports, and A Dark and Story Night, you also have a bunch of dud episodes like A Grave Mistake, Stall Monitor, and the very controversial Kings of the Con. Regardless, despite being my least favorite, I'd still say it's an okay season at least. Now we're on to Season 5, and the first thing I gotta talk about would have to be the low IMDb ratings. I know this was the season where things did start to feel a bit different, but man, what is up with these low ratings? Maybe it's got to do with the episodes being rated in pairs? I don't know, but I definitely feel those critics are being way too harsh. It also might have something to do with the number of Lincoln and Pals episodes, most of which are average, and the very controversial start of the season being Schooled. Despite that, I personally don't have much hate for this season. My least favorite episode is Season's Cheatings, but it's nowhere near on the level of all the bad episodes I previously mentioned. And there are still a variety of great episodes like A Flip Miss Carol, Training Day, and Camped. Even though I understand the complaints, I do feel Season 5 is a little bit overhated. Next up we have Season 6, which honestly might be my favorite season of the whole show. No joke, if it wasn't for that one scene from that one episode, I definitely say it's my favorite. At the very least, I do think it's an improvement over Season 5 in multiple ways. While my least favorite episodes this season are obviously The Taunting Hour and Musical Chairs, there are quite a handful of episodes I quite enjoy. You got Present Danger, So Far So Good, Pop Pop the Question, the masterpiece that is Save Royal Woods, and a whole lot more. This is definitely the season I feel deserves way more love. Now we're on to season 7, which is the first season to not be 26 half hours as part of the production went into the No Time to Spy movie. I'll be honest, I don't think there's much to say about the remaining seasons, but I don't think there's anything bad to say. With season 7, there isn't a single episode I'd give a thumbs down, and I love how this season gave us the road trip arc. I was hoping we'd get more story arcs in the following seasons, and we did. Even though there's not much to say, I still think season 7 is overall enjoyable. As for season 8, besides the highlights of the season being the Europe road trip arc and the 1-hour Halloween special, Close Encounters of the Nerd Kind, the thing I remember the most about this season is the 232-day hiatus between new episodes, the longest hiatus we've had. I have no idea why it took this long, and I probably never will. Still, like with season 7, I think season 8 is mostly enjoyable with not a single poor episode. Lastly, we have seasons 9, 10, and 11. Since these seasons aren't done airing yet, I won't bother discussing them. Although, season 9 was supposed to finish airing on April 24th, but Nickelodeon accidentally aired the wrong episode. I hope no one got fired for that. Still, the synopses for all the revealed episodes look promising, and I can't wait to watch them all. Especially the season 11 finale, Emotional Roller Coaster. I don't think it's going to be the series finale like some people are predicting, but I do think if written right, it will be one of the absolute best episodes of the entire series. Before I forget, I should briefly touch upon each of the show's 3 animated movies, since I thought about it while talking about season 7. I will probably make individual videos discussing them in the future though. Starting with the first Loud House movie, I don't think it's an unpopular opinion for even a die-hard fan like myself to say the movie is okay at best. While I loved it during my first viewing, nowadays it just doesn't feel like this is the movie that defines what the Loud House is about. I know I said earlier I don't care about the reality versus fantasy argument, but I definitely think this movie should have been on the more realistic side. Still, I don't think this movie has anything overly bad, and it has its highlights, so I'd still call it a decent movie. Next is No Time to Spy, which is undoubtedly the best of the 3 movies. Not only does it tie into the main series very well, but it definitely feels like genuine effort was put into this one. The action scenes were awesome, the movie was funny, and the serious moments really hit. I absolutely loved this movie on my first watch, and still love it to this day. I would no doubt start throwing hands if anyone called this movie bad. In contrast, last we have Naughty or Nice. Look, this movie is fine on paper, and I want to like it, but as someone who has Lincoln as his favorite character and knows him really well, I just can't take the way he is written in this movie seriously. The fact he is the only character considered a flipper and completely ignores all the nice things he's done throughout the series makes the movie feel very annoying to watch. Had this one major problem been fixed, the movie would have been a lot better. Still, I love how the film looks, I like that there are plenty of characters from the main series that appear, and the action scenes were cool too. I'd still call the movie overall decent, but I can totally understand others not liking this movie solely for the story and how it portrays Lincoln. So those were my thoughts on the seasons and movies of the Loud House. Like I said at the start of the segment, I'd say the quality of the show as a whole is above average at least. I would have to rate every episode from 1 to 10 and average them all together, but I still think it would be above average. And it's important to know that we all have our different opinions and viewpoints on the dozens of episodes in this show, as well as all types of media as a whole. Even if someone highly disagrees with my taste, that won't change the praise I give the entire series. With all that said, I think this segment is long enough, so I better start wrapping things up. So those are my general thoughts on the Loud House as a whole. Obviously, there's even more things I can say about everything I talked about, as well as other things I didn't even mention. Heck, I never brought up how the show was originally going to be about a rabbit boy living with 25 sister rabbits. It just goes to show how deep this franchise is. With all that said, am I satisfied with everything this show had to offer? And am I glad I stuck around with it all these years later? Yes I am. It obviously hasn't been perfect, and there's been quite a few bumps in the road, but that still doesn't change how much entertainment and joy I felt when watching the entire series. I get shows like The Loud House aren't everyone's cup of tea, and I understand the criticisms many people have with it. But no amount of unnecessary, and frankly sometimes over-exaggerated, complaints will change how much nostalgia I have for this franchise. Whenever I look at The Loud House, I just get this feeling that I don't have with other shows. Several people might just see this Nickelodeon show as a typical cartoon about a boy living with 10 sisters, but to me, it's a very special and unique show, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. While I do think many other shows are better critically, I don't think any of them can capture the exact same charm The Loud House has. Plus, there's also the fact that those other shows probably have way less episodes, and I consider quality and quantity to be equal factors when reviewing TV series. Either way, I probably wouldn't be the person I am today if I had never watched this beloved Nicktoon since day one. It may sound crazy to say, but that's just how I feel. So, thank you, The Loud House. Thank you for bringing me several hours of fun watching dozens of episodes, and for leaving an impact on my life that I will never forget. With all that said, where do I think the franchise is gonna go from here? Well, I alluded to the season 11 finale, Emotional Roller Coaster, potentially being the series finale, and since the recent tweet from Kevin Sullivan about The Loud House supposedly being cancelled, which turned out to be a misunderstanding, more people are starting to believe we're nearing the end. However, something tells me we're not near the end. Considering the facts The Loud House and SpongeBob are the only shows really keeping Nickelodeon afloat, if one of them were to be cancelled, then the network would pretty much be under the hood. I have a feeling that after enough time passes, probably a few months at least, Nickelodeon will renew The Loud House for more seasons, and we'll be getting plenty more episodes and content. We might also get a new movie or spin-off, and if they somehow revive the Casagrandes, that would be cool too. Either way, I don't think The Loud House will be ending anytime soon. As for my plans with the franchise, you bet I have plenty of those. Obviously, I'll make ranking videos for every episode in seasons 9, 10, and 11 when the time comes. Hopefully, season 9 will air its final episode soon, so I can quickly work on that. Besides those, there are also a variety of video ideas I have in mind. Whether it's reviewing more episodes or talking about a specific character or two, there are all kinds of videos that I can make. If I can find the time to make them, and also make sure none of them are way longer than they need to be in terms of duration, then I'm sure I can create plenty of commentary Loud House videos. Oh, and I still want to make that complete episode ranking when the time comes. But yeah, there's all kinds of things I can do if the franchise keeps going, and I'm sure it will. And I hope many fans, old and new, will be a part of the Loud Crowd, which is the name of the Loud House community. So, no matter what, I will always be a fan of the Loud House and will keep on supporting it until the day I die. And there you have it, my little celebration of the Loud House's 10-year anniversary. It was nice reflecting on my history with the show and how much it means to me. For the last time, I would say more, but then I'd be repeating myself. Since this is currently my shortest commentary video, I think it's time to wrap things up. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my preamble. I know I didn't do much editing this time, plus there wasn't any background music, and the fact that this video was up nearly 3 months after the anniversary really says something. I've just been more busy with my part-time job than usual recently, as well as other things, and I'm trying my best to balance working on YouTube and having personal fun during my free time. Hopefully in the near future, I'll either become less busy or find a better rhythm when balancing everything together. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed the video, then please leave a like, a comment, and consider subscribing to the channel. Like I said in the intro, I promise with your support, I'll be more motivated to work hard on future videos and improve the quality and my editing skills. As for what's next on the channel, I made a post recently about how I doubt I'll be able to finish the video plans I made this year, and I still atone for that. So instead, I'll just be working as hard as I can whenever I have time to work on videos, and I'll still aim to have them be on the shorter side. So yeah, I think that's about it, and I don't want to waste time coming up with other things to say. Once again everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Bye!